It was a Tuesday when Elliot Caldwell's life took an unexpected turn toward absurdity. The day had begun like any other in the future, quiet, orderly, and deeply unsatisfying. Elliot, 32 years old and a geneticist by trade, stared out of his office window at the sprawling, glass-dominated cityscape of New Boston. It was a world of shimmering steel towers and self-driving cars, but the only thing Elliot could think about was the apocalypse. Or, to be precise, the fact that humanity was on the verge of extinction and no one seemed to be particularly bothered by it. He tapped the corner of his mug, which read, "The end is nigh. Who's got the popcorn?" The mug had once been funny, back when people still had a sense of humor. Now it just reminded him that, yes, humanity was indeed nigh on the brink of collapse, and here he was, sipping lukewarm coffee and waiting for his life to start. But that wasn't why he found himself in the government building today. No, Elliot was here to sign a contract. A contract that, unbeknownst to him, would change everything. He sat across from Yla Through, an alien diplomat whose eyes, plural, glowed a curious shade of green, as though his very existence depended on some sort of internal light show. Yla Through was at least 7 feet tall, but he had an air of infinite patience, which, in retrospect, should have been Elliot's first clue that this wasn't going to be a run-of-the-mill meeting. The alien didn't speak immediately. Instead, he passed a digital tablet across the table to Elliot. The tablet was sleek and holographic, casting a soft purple light, and was so obviously superior to anything human technology had produced that it made Elliot feel just the slightest bit inadequate. "Sign," Yla Through said in a voice that echoed like a deep hum, "and you will be saving the future of your species." Elliot glanced at the tablet, read the fine print, and snorted. "So, what? This is some kind of stud farm deal? You want me to become a glorified sperm donor for a future generation?" Yla Through blinked, at least Elliot assumed he did, since one of his eyes rolled upward and the other remained eerily fixed on him. "No, Mr. Caldwell. This is a genetic legacy. A dignified program to ensure the survival of humanity, after you and your people, well, you did rather poorly with your reproductive systems, didn't you?" Elliot's eyes narrowed, and he felt a half-smile tug at the corner of his mouth. "I'm not sure if you're insulting me or just being factually accurate. You're saying humans have become so biologically exhausted that you need us to breed like horses in a barn?" Yla Through's alien expression remained unchanged. "Yes. I should have known," Elliot muttered. "Here I was thinking this meeting was about solving world hunger or maybe finding a cure for aging. Instead, it's a glorified human breeding program. I guess I'll get a trophy at the end?" "Of course, you will receive compensation," Yla Through said smoothly, "and a luxurious lifestyle during your service." "A lifestyle that involves breeding?" Elliot's voice rose in disbelief. Yla Through nodded. "For the greater good of your species, yes." Elliot leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "So, you want me to sign my life away and become part of some intergalactic cattle farm? Tell me, what's the catch? Do I get a free massage while I'm impregnating women?" "Massage?" Yla Through repeated, tilting his head as though processing the idea. "I suppose that could be arranged." Elliot let out a short laugh. "I'm beginning to feel like I should get a T-shirt that says, 'I'm helping repopulate Earth and all I got was a lousy alien massage.'" Yla Through, completely unaware of the sarcasm, continued, "You will also receive a private, serene environment in which to perform your duties. Food, entertainment, relaxation. And most importantly, you will help ensure that humanity survives through future generations." Elliot ran a hand through his messy hair. So, let me get this straight. You're telling me that humanity is one bad sperm sample away from extinction, and the solution is me? Some random guy who's just doing his job as a geneticist but now gets promoted to human stud? What a way to go out. If the future is depending on me, I think we're all doomed. Through didn't miss a beat. It is a noble sacrifice. You are one of the last eligible candidates, Mr. Caldwell. You are genetically superior, that is why you've been chosen. Elliot blinked. Wait, genetically superior? You mean I'm one of the last people on Earth who isn't completely infertile? Precisely. Wait, you're telling me I'm your best shot? God help humanity, Elliot muttered. Then louder, to himself, well, I guess it's not every day you get called genetically superior by an alien. That's got to be worth something, right? Through didn't laugh. In fact, the alien stared at him, unblinking, his voice deepening as if to underline the seriousness of the situation. Mr. Caldwell, this is not a joke. Your species faces extinction. This is the only solution. Your sacrifice will ensure the survival of humankind. Elliot's laugh died in his throat. He set the tablet down, looking at the contract again, his thoughts running wild. The seeded line, the program the Thillen had developed, sounded more like something from a dystopian novel than reality. And yet, here he was. He rubbed his eyes, looking up at Through. What happens to the women? Ah, yes. The human females selected for the program will also play a vital role in ensuring the future of the species. They will provide the necessary genetic material. Provide? Elliot echoed. Oh, that's a nice way of saying become breeding partners. Through blinked, seemingly unfazed. Yes, indeed. Elliot stood up abruptly, pacing the room. The absurdity of it all was like something out of a bad dream. Here he was, about to sign a contract that would change his life, and the fate of humanity, forever. He looked at the tablet one last time, the glowing text offering the most ridiculous and convoluted terms imaginable: wealth, comfort, and genetic responsibility. He felt a weird mix of terror and amusement. Well, he said finally, turning back to the alien. I guess the future of the world is in my hands, or, I guess, my other hand. He gestured vaguely toward his crotch. Through nodded solemnly. That is correct. Elliot let out a long, exasperated sigh. I can't believe this is my life. Well, Mr. Caldwell, you've been chosen. You may now sign the contract. The alien's calm, soothing voice was at odds with the insane situation, but the gravity of the moment hit Elliot like a ton of bricks. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about a future he never asked for, but one he was now responsible for. He reached forward and signed the contract. Elliot's hand hovered over the contract for a moment longer than he expected, as though something in the finality of the action had caught him off guard. His fingers were almost numb, and for a brief moment, the absurdity of the situation seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of the decision. A legacy, a future, humankind's very survival depending on whether or not he could make the ultimate sacrifice. His dignity, Mr. Caldwell? Through's voice was patient, disarmingly calm. We do not have all day. Elliot sighed, more to himself than to the alien. Yeah, he muttered. He signed the contract. The screen on the tablet blinked with a soft green light, confirming the transaction. A series of texts scrolled up, each one outlining the perks of being a seeded line candidate in greater detail. Elliot didn't bother reading it all. The final line, though, caught his attention. By signing this agreement, you acknowledge that your participation in the seeded line program is irrevocable, and you consent to the necessary biological procedures, including but not limited to genetic extraction, insemination cycles, and permanent residence within the designated seed facility for the duration of your term of service. Welcome to the future of humanity, Mr. Caldwell, Through said with what might have been a slight smile, or at least an attempt at one. We will transport you to your designated seed facility immediately. Great, Elliot muttered, already picturing himself locked away in some sterile, state-of-the-art breeding pen. I feel so important. Without another word, the alien snapped his fingers. The room around them shimmered, and the walls blurred, as though the reality itself was bending. Before Elliot could react, the floor vanished, and his stomach dropped as though he'd just plummeted into a void. Then, without warning, he felt the familiar sensation of gravity pulling him down into something soft that he landed in what looked like an upscale hotel lobby. The walls were a cool shade of white and metallic silver, and the air smelled faintly of lavender and ozone. An overly cheerful robotic receptionist with an impossibly wide smile greeted him. Welcome to the seed facility, Mr. Caldwell. We hope you enjoy your stay. The facility itself was almost comically luxurious. As far as Elliot could tell, this was supposed to be a reward for his sacrifice: plush furniture, a view of a virtual skyline stretching out over a glassy, artificial ocean, and every possible amenity. A room that would have been the envy of the wealthiest elites on Earth. Yeah, he muttered to himself, eyeing the spotless interior with increasing disbelief. They've really gone all out to turn me into a human sperm bank. Too bad I don't get a say in the matter. He was led down a pristine hallway by a soft-spoken assistant bot that informed him, enthusiastically, as if reading off a corporate brochure, that his stay at the seed facility would consist of routine biological optimization, preparation for reproductive cycles, and leisure activities designed to ensure peak genetic output. In other words, he was a walking incubator, and this was his gilded cage. His assigned quarters were luxurious, as expected: a king-sized bed that seemed far too large for one person, a minibar stocked with an assortment of international delicacies, and a wall-mounted holographic screen for entertainment. Everything screamed comfort, but it also screamed isolation. His entire existence now reduced to something biological, mechanical. He wondered if, after the initial excitement, he would eventually start to feel like a lab rat. If this was the future of humanity, he wasn't sure he wanted any part of it. The assistant bot, oblivious to Elliot's growing discomfort, handed him a pamphlet. This is your schedule for the next 3 weeks, Mr. Caldwell. During this time, you will meet with your assigned partner, undergo genetic analysis, and prepare for your first reproductive cycle. Please review the information, and feel free to request any amenities. Elliot took the pamphlet, and his eyes scanned the bullet points. Week 1-2, orientation, genetic optimization, initial pairing with female candidate. Week 3, first reproductive cycle, rest period, follow-up genetic enhancement. He couldn't help but let out a short laugh, despite the dark undertones. Genetic optimization. First reproductive cycle. It was like being prepared for a marathon, except the prize wasn't a medal, it was the survival of the species. As the bot prattled on about pre-cycle supplements and psychological adjustments to ensure a positive breeding experience, Elliot stopped listening. His mind was already running in a million different directions. Part of him was angry. Part of him was disgusted. But a small, cynical part of him couldn't help but be bemused. He had always prided himself on thinking of himself as a rational person, but this was something else entirely. There was no logic here. No real thought. It was just survival. He was interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. The assistant bot gave a polite beep. "Ah, your partner has arrived. Please be prepared for your initial meeting." "Partner?" Elliot repeated with an eyebrow raised. The bot was gone before he could ask any more questions. But before the door could open again, Elliot had already steeled himself for whatever was about to happen next. He knew, in some twisted way, that this wasn't about to be a romance. He was here to breed, and the rest was just window dressing. The door slid open. Standing there, looking slightly nervous but composed, was a woman in her mid-20s. She was tall, blonde, and looked as though she'd stepped out of an old advertisement for some utopian vision of the future. Perfect skin, perfect posture, perfect everything. She looked out of place. Her eyes met his, and there was a flicker of recognition in them, though neither of them said anything for a moment. Then, finally, she spoke. "You're Mr. Caldwell, right?" Elliot gave a half-hearted smile, leaning against the doorway. "Yeah, that's me." "And you are?" "Elena," she said simply, offering a small, tight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm your partner for the program. We're, supposed to, get to know each other." Elliot nodded, wondering just how awkward this could get. "Right, the getting to know each other part. So, I guess this is the part where I start to get uncomfortable?" Elena didn't laugh, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. She seemed just as unsure as he was. "Look," Elliot said, finally pushing past his initial disbelief, "I'm not here because I want to be. But, well, here we are, right?" She nodded, her hands clasped in front of her, clearly uncomfortable. "Yeah, I know. It's strange. But it's what we have to do." The awkward silence stretched between them, but there was something in the air that made Elliot's stomach twist. It wasn't just the program. It wasn't just the aliens. It was something deeper. A shared knowledge that none of this was normal. None of this was real, and that was when it hit him. Elena wasn't here because she wanted to be either. She was here because she had no choice. Just like him. Just like everyone else. Hours passed. Or maybe it was days. Elliot wasn't sure. His whole world had shrunk to a series of sterile, high-tech rooms, meals that arrived at precisely the right time, and quiet, unsettling interactions with Elena, who always seemed just a little more distant than before. They never talked about the program outright. They never talked about the breeding part. It was always something else, something safer, like the weather in a world that was on fire, but in the quiet moments, when the lights dimmed and the world outside felt more distant than ever, Elliot couldn't shake the thought that he had become part of something far bigger, and far darker, than anyone had prepared him for, and yet, for all of it, a strange part of him wanted to make it work. He wasn't sure why, maybe because, in this hellscape of a future, surviving felt like winning, but what, exactly, was he winning? End.